See you never.
Hey, everything all right?
Film's off, Wilfred.
Act 3 turning point. It's gonna be one hell of a dark night of the soul.
Third act turning point? What is Wilfred talking about here? And why is it going to be such a dark night of the soul? Well, Wilfred is referring to the 3-act story structure, the most commonly used writing structure in film. The third act turning point, also known as the second act turning point, is the moment we reach the film's climax. Typically, that's the time where our characters are most in danger. But what is story structure? Story structure is an important thing to think about when planning your film. Simply put, the structure dictates how and when you place plot points and develop your characters. A basic search online and you will find numerous types of story structures out there. There's real-time structure, circular structure, multiple timelines, reverse chronological, Rashomon structure, and fabulous structure? What the heck is that? But ultimately, it could be argued that all these structures can be boiled down to the basic and most commonly used 3-act structure. After all, no matter how you tell it, a story almost always has a beginning, middle, and an end. And broadly speaking, that's what the 3 acts are: the beginning, middle, and end. But we can break down each act even further. Act 1. Act 1 is where you introduce your characters and launch them into their journey. This act can be broken down further into the setup, where you introduce your characters and show the ordinary world in which they live. During this time, you will show your characters' flaws and their potential for growth, and also set the tone of your film. Then we have the inciting incident, a moment that pulls your protagonist out of the ordinary world and thrusts them into the main action of your story. If we were to use the Wizard of Oz for an example, the inciting incident is the moment the Twister takes Dorothy away from Kansas. Then we have the first act turning point, where your character has wrestled with what to do with the inciting incident and decides to embark on the journey. This is when we truly see what the film is about. Dorothy chooses to see the wizard and starts down the yellow brick road. By the way, when I say journey, it doesn't always have to be a physical journey in an external world. A story can just as easily revolve around an internal journey. A breakup of a relationship could be the turning point into a journey of single life, where we watch our character build the courage to live life on their own. Which brings us to Act 2. This typically consists of rising action that leads to a midpoint, devolves into a crisis, and finally turns into a new plan of action. The first part of the second act may introduce characters that help our main character on their journey. Dorothy meets Scarecrow, Tin Man, and Lion. We are introduced to life in this new world and see our main character find their feet. Then there's the midpoint, where the stakes are raised and we see our main character face conflicts and challenges that show their true capability. Followed by this is the second act turning point, where we see our characters at their lowest. All hope is lost and their goal seems completely out of reach. The wizard gives our heroes the dangerous task of obtaining the broom, and then Dorothy is kidnapped by the witch. Which brings us to the third and final act. This aims to resolve the story to a satisfying conclusion, starting with the pre-climax, where your characters pick themselves up from their low point and create a new plan to reach their goal. Dorothy's friends plan to save her from the witch. This is followed by the climax, where our characters will face their enemies externally or internally and learn the lessons they need to learn. And finally, we see the denouement, which is just a fancy French word that means the emotional resolution to the film. Characters get what they need and life returns to normal. The wizard gives all the characters what they're after, and Dorothy returns home to Kansas. The 3-act structure works very well for a feature-length film, but it can still apply to any form of storytelling. A series you might binge on Netflix will still have a structure like this, just stretched over 10 or so episodes. A short film, like the ones you'll be making for the Realise Film Festival, will compress this structure. Act 1, the setup and inciting incident, could happen in one scene or even one line. Act 2 will make up most of your short, and then Act 3 could just be the payoff at the end. Let's take a short film based on cyberbullying as an example. The film could open in a classroom where a student witnesses a moment of online bullying. In one short scene, we have Act 1 already. We've established where we are, and the inciting incident is the witnessing of the cyberbullying. Now, what will our character do? Act 2 will be the majority of the film, where we might see our main character wrestle with what to do about what she's witnessed. We might watch as she discovers who's behind the bullying and then gather the courage to say something. Act 3 would be the moment she decides to confront the bullies, which results in an outpouring of kindness and support from her peers. A satisfying payoff. Same 3-act structure, but compressed to fit into a 5-minute short. Of course, there are no hard and fast rules when it comes to story structure. These are just examples of what can work. Feel free to experiment. In most cases, if you have a beginning, middle, and an end, you're on the right track. So, happy filming.